All right, so we're going to start the next step of this process. One thing that I realized off camera is I had made a mistake here. We need to go in and we need to update a few of our global variables. And what I had done is the syntax for these, when I had you guys type these in, I just had you put them in as A and B. And what you need to do, and you can see here that this isn't showing up as being an equation for this. So, and normally it will have this little equation sign next to it. So what you need to do is you need to double click on your dimension here, go in and you want to type equal to, it's going to say there's global variables here. You want to say A and say enter, and then enter. Now you can see it's got the little summation sign there next to it. And then we can do the same thing here. This one is going to be equal to global variable B. Say enter, enter, and you see that gets updated there. And then we'll exit out of here and we can go and edit our boss extrude or edit our feature. And in here for that part we want to say equal to, and we want to say global variable C. All right, we'll say enter. All right, say okay. Now when we go in, we can go to our equations either over here and we can change them here. Actually, no, we can't. My bad. We can manage our equations. And so we want to change these to the values that were given to us in the second part. And I have already done this. So we have 84, 59, and 45 are the part 4 variables that we want to put in there. We say OK. And so those will all be updated now. And if you're afraid that might not be updated, you can click the rebuild here. And then if we go to mass properties, you can see here that our mass has changed. And so on this question, we're going to actually be typing in what those grams would be for the answer on this. So there's no multiple choice. All right. So that's that next step. All right. So we continue now with changing the model that we created. So we have a few cuts in here. You can see on the isometric views up here, we have a cut made out here, we have a slit cut in here, and we have this little notch cut out right here. And you can see we get those the variables that we need for that in these two drawings here. So I'm going to take that piece and we will put it into up in the top corner here of the drawing, and we will continue with this process. All right, so we have our object here, right? And we're drawing off of this plane. And so we can see that we've got a few things that come off the front plane. We're going to say, if we look at the piece, if we tip it over and we're looking at it like this, our slot is going to be measured 12 millimeters off the front, and we're going to have this one little notch cut that comes off the front as well. So actually both of those notch cuts are going to come off the back. So what we might do is, let me see here. All right, so if we look at this piece, we can see that when it's lined up here, if we look at the drawing, that we're going to have a cutout here, and we're going to have an extruded cut here. And then if we flip it over just slightly, off this back face in 12 millimeters, we're going to have another cut in here. And since those are the dimensions that we're given, that it's related to the back face of this and not to the front face, then when we set this cut up, we're going to want it to set up so it's always 12 millimeters off that backside. So that way, if our global variable of C changes, this cut will still stay in relationship to this back edge. And the reason why we're doing it that way, even though we could do the math and figure out how far it is off the front edge, is because the value they give us is off of that back edge. So let's start off with the easy ones though. We have a cut in here in the face that is going in, and it's going to be 19 millimeters deep on this front face, and we can see the dimensions for it when we look at the drawing. So it's going to be from this edge, and let's go back to being normal here, so everything's nice and neat. So the way you want to set these cuts up is you want to make sure that you do them in the relationship that the drawing is showing you. So we know that the edge of this cut is going to be in 52 from this right side, right? So we can come over here and we can draw in a line, and we can then do some stuff where we can either just do a square here where we would be cutting it out, and that would probably be pretty simple. The only problem with that is we want to make sure that when we are making that cut with the square, that at any point in time, if some of the other variables change, it wouldn't change where that cut was going to be. So what would be easier is if we go here and we draw a line. So we go on here and we go new sketch, and we'll draw a line, and we'll do a vertical line that runs. I don't necessarily know that we want to link it to any point here, but we want it to be coincidental to that face, and we want it to be vertical. So we can run it down to here, and then we say escape. And then what we can do is we can go up and we can convert our entities. So we can click on this face here and we can say convert entities. And what that does is it converts these lines for us. And then what we can do is we can go in and we can do our trim entities, and we can trim this line, that line, there, 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 and there, and then this little guy right there. And now we see we have this value here. And then what we'll want to do is we'll want to give this some measurement. So we go to our smart dimensions, we click on this line here, we go over to here, drop down, and we want to tell this that it's 52. All right, see, there we go. And then that creates outline for this hole that fits this shape. And then what we can do is we can say okay to that, and we can go to feature, and we can say extruded cut, and we know that we're coming off the front face based on the drawing, and we're extruding that cut back into the shape, and we're going to go back 19 millimeters. And we say okay. All right, so there we go. That cut that piece out. Now we're going to do the same thing with this piece down here, okay? So what we want to do is the same idea. So we're going to go to this face again. Let's go normal to it again. Just makes it easier to draw. And then we're going to draw a line. So we're going to right click and we're going to do a new sketch. We're going to draw a line here. Next part. So we're going to come over here. We're going to start on this line. We're drawing across. And we want to go to this face right here. Click on that line. Then we'll push escape. Now one thing that happened is we weren't getting a horizontal line there. So let's come in, we'll click on this line and go up and tell it to be horizontal. There we go. Now we got that line to be horizontal. So now we can go and we can do what we did before. We convert our entities, which is escape. Let's convert our entities on this face. There we go. Now we've got these entities converted, and then we can go in and we can trim. So we'll go through and we'll trim out the parts of this that are not our shape. And there we go. Now we've got this converted here. Now we'll need to go into our smart dimensions and tell it that from this line down to this line needs to be 19. Say okay, and that gives us our shape there, and it's defined. Okay, so we say all right, and then we go up here to features and we do extruded cut, and we can spin it around. This one we're going to cut back 19 as well. All right, so this is what our shape looks like. And if we look at our drawing, this looks right there. So, okay, so now that we've got this piece here, now we need to cut in the slot for our next piece there. And you can see if we spin this so we're normal to this face, it's going to be this corner that's getting cut out, and it's a piece with a radius in here. And so what we'll want to do is, you can see on here that this is getting reference to the back side of that object, and it's going to be 12 in from the back side of that object. Alright, so once again we could do the math and we could figure out where that plane is going to be in reference to the front plane here, but it's easier if we reference it to this back side here. And so what we'll do is we'll come over here and we will click on this backside, and we will start a new sketch, and we're going to do our sketch on this backside, and then when we do our extruded cut, we're going to start our extruded cut off of this face. So that lets us set it up so that we can say extrude this cut from this face backwards. So with that in mind, we want to do a few things here. I'm going to put a reference line in on this face that runs up, because you can see on the drawing that the center point for our cut is going to be referenced onto this line here. So this will make it a little bit easier for us to do that. And then what we can do is we can do a center point arc here, bring our point up, put it on this line. We can come over and we can click on the circle here. We need to get this to draw around, and we can click on the line down here. All right, and then we can push escape. And then what we can do is we can select this body and we can say convert entities. All right, and that converts all of the lines for this body into this, and then we can go in here and we can say trim entities, and we'll trim out everything that isn't the body we just made. All right, and so now we see that we have this body made here. And so there's a few other measurements here that we can do that will make this so this should be defined. So if we go in here to our smart dimensions, one of them is we're going to define what this radius is. So this radius is 41. All right, and then we have our definition for how far off of this point up to this point we have. So we can go down here and we can click on this point here, and we can click up onto this surface and drag across here, and now we can say that this is 36. And when we do that, you see that everything then becomes black and fully defined. All right, so next what we're going to do is we're going to do our extruded cut. And so I'll spin this around so we can see what this looks like. And so we're going to do an extruded cut. And what we're going to do is, instead of from the sketch plane, we're going to go offset here. We're going to tell it our offset is going to be 12 millimeters. And we want to flip our direction. All right, so that moves us in, right, from our surface here. And then if we look at our drawing, we see that our slot that we want to cut there is going to be 24 millimeters wide. So we go in here and we can say 24. There we go. And then when we say OK, it cuts that surface out, right? And so we're offset 12 here, and we're 24 in there. And then finally what we want to do is we want to drill our hole through. So we'll go over here, we'll click on this surface, we'll go normal to it, and we'll do a new sketch. And so this circle is pretty easy. It's 14 down and 14 over. So we can just do the circle tool here. We'll draw a circle. It has a diameter of 11. So if we go to our smart dimensions, grab here, tell it to be 11, and then smart dimensions, center point to this line is going to be 14, and center point to this line is going to be 14. All right, and so there we've got all of that defined. and we have a fully defined circle here. So we say okay, go to features, and we say extruded cut, and we can say up to surface. So let's go up to surface, and we'll pick this surface here, and we'll say okay. The reason why we do the up to surface, through all some would work, and it would give you some future proofing in this object if your width changed, but also if you were to add something in that maybe you didn't want that to cut through, say on this side. If we started on this plane and we say up to surface, that way no matter what the variable changes for the width here, it's always going to go to the surface, so that cut's always going to be made. So there we go. That's this part done. So now to answer the question for this one, we want to go up and we want to go to evaluate again, and we want to go to mass properties. And here you can see that our mass is 628.18 grams. And if you scroll down in the PDF, you'll get down to the bottom and you'll see there's an answer key there. And then that value matches up for what the answer key says. So for the final step of this piece in the exam, you can see that we're going to be cutting out these shells here. And you can see here that they're calling out for some cutouts here. And so in your alphabet of lines video, you would have seen what these cutouts were what these lines meant. And this is showing that there's going to be a cut that goes right down the middle here, right? And you're looking at a half section here. And these lines here are showing you that this is internal material that you're seeing here. So we've got these two cutouts here, and you can see once again that this deeper one is referenced off the back plane, not off the front. So when we make these cutouts, we want to make it off the back plane. And then you can also see that we have a typical call out for our width here. So our width is going to be 1 millimeter. And basically if they give that typical call out, then everywhere where we have that shell, we're going to make that shell 1 millimeter. And even though this isn't necessarily called out on this face, we're going to make the assumption that this is 1 millimeter here in this cutout. So let's get started with that. I'll add this to the screen and we'll get going. Okay, so we're going to be drawing off of this front plane face. We're actually going to draw off of this surface right here. So let's go normal to that. And we'll go here and we'll start a new sketch. All right. So one thing that we could do is we can convert entities on this line, and then we could do an offset of that. But there's actually a function that does this automatically. If we go up here to this offset entities line, we click on that, and then that's going to just basically automatically offset off of all the lines that we have on that shape. And you can see here that its default is to go in that direction, and it's going out as a 10. So we want to reverse it so it comes in. And then we want to change this value to 1, and we say OK. And there you can see that this created this line that's all the way in there, and we can say OK. All right, and so that gives us our shape, and it's fully defined, and it's inside here, and it's what we want, right? And so if we go to the edge here, we can see on our drawing that this pocket needs to go back into this shape right here, and it goes back to a depth of 1 millimeter. And so we could do the math on the width of this piece here, and we could set it up so that it was, a blind cut back the depth that we needed. But the problem is that if this changes, we want that pocket to always be within 1 millimeter of the back wall. So what we can do instead is we can go to features, and we can do extruded cut. You can see right now our extruded cut's huge, way too big. We can back that up a bit here. So we're inside of here. And see right now we've got it says cut into there. But what we can do, instead of going blind with a dimension, we can go here and we can go up to surface or offset from surface. So we want to go offset from surface. We'll spin this around. We pick this surface here. And right now it's offset from surface 6 millimeters. We want to offset it from surface 1 millimeter. We say OK. Now, when we spin back around, we can see that we're cutting in, we're going in offset for 1 millimeter, and we say OK. And there, right there, is that first cut completed. So pretty simple how to do that, all right? So the next step we're going to do is we're going to cut out this pocket right here. And so you can see here that it's referenced off of this line here, this arc here. But it's going to be drawn off this face. And you can see when we had that highlighted there, you could see where that line is. So let's zoom out a little bit. We'll go normal to this face. Okay. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go over here to our sketch for that part. And I'm going to turn that sketch to visible so I can see that line. And so then what I can do is I can go here and I can start a new sketch. And so we've got this line visible. And I can click on this line. So we'll click off of that face. I can click on this line and I can say offset entity. And you can see it then offsets that entity in 1 millimeter like we had it before. So we can say okay. And so now I've got this line drawn, right? And so what I can do from here is I can then click on this face and I can say convert entities. All right, so that gave me all of these converted entities here. We'll go back in, let's make this line invisible again. So we'll go back to that line and we'll hide it. So that line's gone, so now we just have these lines that we're worried about. So now with that done, we can go in and we can go trim entities. We can trim out our little pieces. You want to make sure that you don't miss anything. Sometimes going around those arcs, you'll miss pieces. And we can trim out those, and that gives us our shape here. And this is our pocket here. And so this one, remember, we could do the math on it, and once again, figure out how deep of a blind cut we want to do. But we know that we want to cut it back to offset from this surface 12 millimeters, right? And so as this width changes, if we did a blind cut with a known depth, that cut might change. And so we want to make it so that our reference is true to the drawing, right? So you can see here that we want it to be back 12. So what we can do is we say okay on our trim, and we'll do features, and we'll do extruded cut, and we'll do offset from surface. We'll pick this surface, and then our offset is going to be 12 millimeters. So here we go, we say 12 millimeters, and we say okay. And so now when we spin around, we can see that we now have that pocket cut in here. So we have these two pockets cut, and not too hard. You had to do a little bit of clever thinking about how you get around that and how you get those pockets cut. But that gives us that pocket there, and now we have that shape cut. So this is our final piece, and we can go in and we can look and see what the instructions tell us that they want from us here. So just take a quick look at the object, make sure nothing looks off, make sure nothing is strange in what we did here, or that we missed anything, and it doesn't look like we did. And now we can scroll down and we can see, what are they asking here. So what's the overall mass in grams again? So click here, and we can go up to our evaluate, and we can go to our mass properties. And we can look at our mass properties again. And so we have 432.59 grams here is what our mass properties are for this piece. And so if we go into the PDF and we scroll down to our answer key, we have 432.58. So 432.59 is close enough. We're within the 1% error that they were looking for. And so that's a correct value there. So here's our final piece for that part of the exam. You can see that there are multiple steps here. You'll have to have a pretty good idea of, creating in reference planes and different geometry, and paying attention to how you do your different radius and whether or not your lines need to be tangent. We saw that with some of these first pieces. So with that, that's the end of this video. And if you have any questions, just give me a holler.